Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the Wrestling Through the Years podcast, our main show. I am the Big D-I-Z, Big Dizzle, the beauty of this show, and I'm here with the brain of this show. Actually, that doesn't exist. No, but the Wrestling Dictionary himself, Dutchie.
Yo.
And the main man with the plan. If you want to get your bets up, if you want to get your dick up, if you want anything to be up, check out Eric Money. He's here. How are you doing, Eric?
Good. How about you guys?
I feel like the air's just been taken out of the room because we don't have YouTube TV anymore.
It's okay. We can get the free trial. But we're here to celebrate a legendary career today, and we're here to talk about the career of Jake the Snake Roberts, who has, spanning from the territories to the WWF to after the WWF to back to the WWF. If you're coming here looking for us dunking on his personal issues, that's not going to happen.
No, there's not. Like, we're here to talk about his accomplishments, not his demons.
I'm not talking about Legends of Wrestling or none of that. Because I mean, I watch it as a fan, and we watch it, to celebrate it. And we talk shit about, stuff we don't like. But Jake was a part of a lot of stuff we liked, and we like to keep it to wrestling. I mean, Doug maybe strays off that path every once in a while, but
every now and then,
and maybe gets a little personal. But we care.
I've got nothing against Jake the Snake Roberts. I've met him.
No,
he's a nice guy,
and we're here to celebrate his career.
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna do.
But with him though too, he's one of those guys to where he is very soft spoken. He's very, very calm in his promos. And I feel like this week, I feel like Undertaker's 6 Feet Under podcast knew that we were going to do a career retrospective on Jake because he did an interview with Jake that aired this week. So, copycats. Because we had this advertised for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, they fucked us.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
Well, that's what happens when you have a co-host that wears flip-flops.
Hey.
What are you wearing them now?
No, I'm wearing slippers. But
Okay.
Now, for people that don't know, or people, new fans, because we keep forgetting that there's new people coming in every day, especially for WWE nowadays. You got new fans, you got new people that are checking out the new product that don't necessarily know a lot about the old stuff. And, we like to be a beacon of, intellectual knowledge when it comes to that.
Well, you choose intellectual knowledge. I choose bullshit.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people might not remember. But if you're a real wrestling fan that's, been in it and seen a couple of YouTube videos and shit, you'll know that Jake the Snake Roberts is the fucking man. And I think the biggest thing that comes to mind, two big things. One of the better heels to ever do it. And two, one of the better guys to never be WWF World Champion.
Yeah, which, by the way, one of the things, and we can kind of start with this, he was going to have a run with Hogan in 87 after WrestleMania 3.
Yes.
So he was going to do the stuff with Andre, and then they were going to do the WrestleMania 3 thing because they were kind of keeping Jake as a tweener. He was going to work with Honky, and then he was going to have the program with Hogan. And they filmed the Snake Pit, which was Jake's weekly interview segment. They filmed it with Hogan, and they aired an angle where Jake gave Hogan the DDT on the concrete.
Yeah.
Issue was the fans cheered it. Vince got scared and is like, oh shit, people are going to want him to drop the title to Jake. No, like, we can't. No.
Well, and that's the thing. When you talk about a run with Hogan at the top, that was probably losing a couple matches to Hogan for the belt.
yeah.
And that's, I don't think he would.
No, they weren't going to give him the title,
Yeah.
but no, because he got that reaction. Vince is just like, oh no, Hogan's going to be the heel in this.
Yeah.
That's basically how Vince felt about it. So they never aired the angle, and they just kind of let Jake. And Jake, according to Jake, he hurt his neck anyway because Honky hit him with a legit guitar, I guess.
Yeah.
They still have heat to this day. But yeah, like he would have had the run with, like, he thought he was going to get a run against Hogan, for the belt, and he thought he was going to get a run against Warrior. Although Warrior wasn't even the champion at the time, but that was another one. Like, the funny thing is back in the early 90s, little kids, there's a few things little kids did not want to see or did not want to walk in on. One was your grandparents having sex. Two was you didn't want to walk in while there was a Phil Hartman comedy special on. And three, you did not want to walk in on your favorite wrestler getting bit by a snake. Now, of course, I never had the I don't think I should say pleasure, but I never had, had the chance to walk in on numbers 1 and number 2, but number 3, I walked in like when the snake bit the Ultimate Warrior, when Jake turned heel back in summer of 91. And then when the snake bit Savage, scared the shit out of me.
I think it scared the shit out of, most little kids ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, everybody loves Savage. And that's the one scene. That's why when you talk about him being one of the biggest bad guys, that's the one scene that I think kind of lives on throughout time as like, I've seen it so many, like that's one of those that was ingrained in my head as a kid because I feel like WWE showed it to you a lot. And I feel like it was kind of everywhere. Of like, fucking Macho in the ropes in pain with the snake around him and shit. And such a thrilling, chilling moment that, that is Jake the Snake Roberts. And I think he's also known for his character work, and he's such a cerebral character. And we talk about psychology in wrestling a lot of times. As fans who have never really, worked or bumped like that, we don't understand it. Besides, entertainment in a match. But Jake the Snake Roberts, he understood it. And he's like, everything matters in a wrestling match with him.
Yeah.
Every little thing, every cerebral little move. He is really like a wrestler. Like when you think about what wrestling is and how good of a wrestler somebody is technically, I think Jake the Snake Roberts checked all the boxes for back then.
Yeah.
He was so good in the ring. He made you believe everything was believable. And and he'll always be known for that promo style of, talking very calm, cool, and collected, and, being like a serial killer. Like he was that type of character in an era where it was eat your vitamins and drink your milk and Seven Door Slim Jim and like all that shit. Like it was a very cartoony era, and he was the one guy that was, talking very, like, and it was chilling too. And it was like, it made him a really good character in a cartoony era. He wasn't like a cartoony character. When he was a babyface, he was, and they played into it. And I think that actually worked. And, everyone wanted the plushy snakes and shit.
Yeah, I remember Hasbro actually, I think it was done by Hasbro. They actually made like a life-size inflatable snake.
Yeah.
Which Mom wouldn't let me get, by the way, because she
was scared.
Oh, she was deathly terrified. I remember when I got the Jake the Snake Hasbro, like, it came with the little Damien, right?
Yes.
So our beloved father decided to play a trick. So him and I, like, for the, when I first got the wrestlers, him and I would play with the wrestlers every night, right? So he took the snake off of Jake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, just don't worry about it. So snake went missing for a couple days. Mom found it on top of like this cabinet in the kitchen in the old house on Central Avenue. And it scared the shit out of her. I hear her going, ah! Or more feminine. But she screamed her freaking head off. And she goes, what is your snake doing up there? And I'm 5, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, how would I know? I'm not tall enough to get up there. She goes, your fucking father. And then she goes, did you put the toy snake up on the cabinet? And he goes, yeah, I did. Surprise. But that's like one of those memories where it's just like, oh God. So I never saw that snake again because Mom threw it out.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those figures that, like, because a lot of the Hasbro figures back then, they're more like they're worth a lot in the package, but they're also worth some money out of the loose if you have the accessory. So if you have a Jake with the snake around it, you're looking at some money.
So there you go. And I think a lot of people, thinks his career starts and stops with the WWF, and that's just not true in its own right. A territory legend, Memphis, right?
Mid-South.
Mid-South, world class, Georgia. I don't think he ever went to Memphis.
Never did any Memphis.
I watched some of his most of his. I watched the vids I watched. They were most of his Mid-South.
Okay. Well, what did you think of his Mid-South run?
I thought it was good. He had a good run with what's his name, Taylor. And,
Terry Taylor.
And
yeah, because they were feuding over the TV title, which was a medal, by the way.
Yeah.
The TV title wasn't even a fucking belt; it was a medal.
And then he had a feud with the North American champion,
Slater, right?
Slater, yep. And with that woman.
Yeah, Dark Journey. Who, when I saw because I posted in Wrestling Through the Years Facebook group, I said, "What are your favorite moments and memories of Jake the Snake?" And got a lot of responses, and a few people said the DDT to Dark Journey. So I went and I found the video. And when I found the video, I sent it to you guys.
I saw it
because it's one of those where, like, because you really didn't see it a lot back then. And like, he kind of made it seem like he did it on accident because he got blinded.
Yeah.
But like, it's one of those.
Like he did.
Yeah. But like, it's one of those accidental DDTs that got a big pop. Bruce Pritchard took one of those as Brother Love.
Didn't he do a lot of work with that guy, the grappler, or no?
I think Len was his partner.
Okay.
I want to say back in Georgia, he was teamed with Gino Hernandez and Baby Doll for a little bit in World Class. They would always work 6-person tags.
Yeah.
Against the Von Erichs and either Sunshine or Stella Mae French, the female truck driver.
I didn't realize he had a match with Shawn Michaels in mid.
Yeah, which I've seen before, which I've seen a few times
in '85.
And it's one of those where, like, Shawn obviously was a jobber back then, but it was still like a really good match.
Yeah, I meant to watch it, but I forgot.
Did he ever do anything with JYD in Mid-South that you remember?
That he did? No. Because he didn't really start getting big in Mid-South until JYD left.
Okay.
And here's the funny... What was that, Eric? I'm sorry.
Jake has a podcast now. He talked about his Mid-South on his podcast.
Yeah. Now, what's funny, getting back to Dark Journey and Dick Slater for a minute, it's funny that Dark Journey got the DDT because Dick Slater was very protective of her.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a story. Legend has it that Sting kind of flirted with Dark Journey back in the day, back in the old UWF days.
Ooh.
And she kind of flirted back. Well, Dick Slater, and this is before Sting was like one of the biggest stars of all time, right?
Yes.
And Slater found out that Sting was kind of messing with Dark Journey, messing with Slater's woman. Man, I don't know, like, if they were in bed or anything like that. I just know there was some flirtation. And Dick Slater goes to Sting, drags him into a stall, and shoves his head down the toilet.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. The story's been verified by a couple of people. Sting's never talked about it. But I think Slater brought it up once before he got dementia, and then I think Dark Journey.
Still alive?
Dick Slater, no. He passed away, I believe, a couple of years ago.
How about Dark?
Dark Journey, I believe, is still alive.
And it's crazy to see like before the Attitude Era, a baby face kind of fucking up a heel woman.
Yeah.
Like you would think like a guy giving a DDT to a female would generate the most heat and he would be the bad guy in the program. You wouldn't think like in the Attitude Era in ECW, slam porn stars through whatever and you'll get a big
She was like Miss Elizabeth before Miss Elizabeth, right?
She was a more dangerous version of Elizabeth.
Okay.
And the one thing I remember, and I was right, by the way, he did have matches with the Grappler as well for the North American Championship.
Oh yeah, I forgot Len was there.
He won it off him. And
I watched a match with him with Ric Flair too.
Good shit.
I don't know if it was Miss South,
but and he had some matches with Teddy down there too.
Yeah, him and Ted.
Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, him and Ted DiBiase and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, by the way, are actually all like intertwined still in wrestling. They all every time they do like appearances, they always make sure they're together and they're under the same agent.
Yes,
it's been that way for years.
Yeah, and so I really liked it. Seeing a young Jake Roberts in Mid-South kicking ass was always fun. And I remember when you and me would watch old episodes of Mid-Atlantic and he started showing up.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God. And didn't he have a program with Ron Garvin? Wasn't that in Mid-Atlantic? Or was
it was either Mid-Atlantic or Georgia.
Yeah.
Him and Ron Garvin, because I think because we've had Jake's brother, Sam Houston, on the show before.
Yes.
We quit having him on the show when he started charging money.
I mean, not that he's not worth it. You are worth it.
I mean, he's definitely worth it.
I'm glad they were brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, they were, I think, same dad. Bless you. Same dad, different moms. So, just quick backstory. Grizzly Smith was Jake, Sam Houston, and Rockin' Robbins, who's a female wrestler, is their father. They don't necessarily. I'm not going to get into too much of the backstory because it's really stuff that does not need to be told. But let's just say that none of the siblings are really close because of their dad.
Okay.
So
Sam Houston and Jake are not.
I mean, Sam has said before, I mean, he's told us before that he has called Jake and he has talked to him, but not like, because Jake really didn't like his father. But because Sam was getting a lot of breaks in the business because of Grizzly, he would, Sam still talks highly of his dad. But yeah, Jake just, so that's like the family lineage right there. Again, not going to get too much into it because we're here to celebrate the career. We're not going to talk about the dark stuff. You want to watch the dark stuff, there is a dark side of the ring.
This is the light side of the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not our place to do it either. So.
But yeah, so we don't have to, really get into that. But yeah, like Jake has a brother and sister in the business. And
I didn't know about the sister.
Yeah. Well, she got in, she was women's champion for a while. And then they wanted to kind of just deactivate the title. If you've ever watched WrestleMania 5, she's the one that sings the national anthem. And she is, oh my Lord.
Good or bad?
Horrible.
Okay.
She made Mean Gene look like Little Richard.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
because Mean Gene sang "America the Beautiful" or the national anthem or whatever at WrestleMania 1.
Oh wow!
And Mean Gene has got a set of pipes on him, but not a singer. But Rockin' Robin, God bless her, like she's worse.
So there you go. Wasn't she involved with the Moolah stuff? Wasn't she in Moolah's camp?
I don't remember. I don't she came in like after. I know she came in after.
Yeah.
Like after Moolah had closed down the sweatshop. But I don't remember her necessarily being involved because like I can say that she got abused, but not by Moolah.
All right. Yeah, we're not we're not getting into it, and somehow bad stuff keeps coming up. But Jake Roberts is a legend, though, and his territory shit. It's a lot better than people. His WWF run was so good that I think that stuff gets overshadowed. But
Yeah.
I liked him with the mustache, just kind of kicking ass in the tights. I thought he was kind of an old school, like badass, type character.
Well, and that was even before he got the DDT too. He was just using a knee lift.
I think a lot of good work. I think a lot of fans would benefit by going back and watching some old Jake because he does have a lot of a good territory work. I mean, of course, the WWF run on national television, it's what's known the most.
Yeah. Well, and also too, when you have he really rose to prominence when he got the DDT. Which, by the way, the DDT is named after a rat poison. Okay, because a DDT is a rat poison.
Yes.
All right. And when he started using that, he started getting all right. He started getting like a lot of recognition. Because the DDT was a move that was way ahead of its time. And when he brought that to the WWE, and he's one of those guys, he hated when other people tried to use it. Because he's like, I'm the only one that does the DDT good. And it's just like, well, I mean, now it's like the DDT isn't even a finish anymore.
Yeah, but that's not his fault.
No.
That's because wrestling has been bastardized.
Yeah.
And moves have been made to mean nothing. But the DDT is still an effectful. And, and it's fucked up because he's not even my favorite DDT. Mick Foley.
Oh, yeah, because Mick's got the double arm.
Yeah, it looks like real almost. Like it looks like he's about. I don't know. It just the believability on that one. That looks like that's badass. I really like Mick's DDT.
I like Jake's because when he when somebody picks him up for a slam and then he just goes in and then hooks it and then when the crowd goes nuts. I remember a Survivor Series. When he used it on the Warlord, he was going 4-1 against the Visionaries, but they didn't want to give him a pin because they wanted the Visionaries to all move on to that grand finale match of Survival. So he hits the DDT on Warlord, and everybody, including Gorilla Monsoon, goes nuts. It's like, oh my God, he hit the DDT. But then, he got counted out of the ring. But when he can hit that out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just so impactful. The way, and you're right, the way the crowd is, because it's kind of like the original RKO out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because where in Midnight, he's not doing a lot of setup for it. Sometimes he'll be getting his ass kicked, and DDT, and the crowd, and he pins him, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, the DDT is one of the best moves in professional wrestling, and it is that way because of Jake Roberts.
Yeah. Well, again, he originated it. I know, Rick Rude was using it in World Class, but he called it the Rude Awakening. And other guys would use it. I think Buddy Rose used it in AWA, but they didn't call it because Jake had it trademarked. That Jake had DDT trademarked, and nobody really wanted to go against Vince at the time. So, when Buddy Rose used it in AWA, they just called it the face plant.
Yeah.
Rude called it the Rude Awakening in World Class.
Yeah.
When Arn started using it in WCW, they did call it DDT, and then the Freebirds called it because people say that like, the Freebirds used it. The Freebirds didn't start using the DDT until Hayes and Garvin became the goofy Freebirds in WCW.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Garvin's DDT looked like shit. Because Jimmy Garvin would hook you and then take you over and kind of fold you to where like you go over. Jake, the easiest way to take a Jake Roberts DDT is just pancake.
Yep.
Just lay flat.
Yeah.
All right. That's how you take that DDT. And then maybe flip over. Because Ted DiBiase used to flip over every time he got hit.
Yeah.
With the DDT.
Get into a little bit of his stuff down in Calgary at Stampede, because I don't know if we talked about that as much, and you've probably seen more of it than
I've seen. I know because Bret Hart has written about it in his book. Bret Hart has he lived with Bret Hart for a while, and then Bret Hart got married and kicked Jake out. And then, but what I can tell you, and I kind of lied to you earlier, so I'm really betting 0 against you today. He worked against JYD in Calgary. JYD though was known as Big Daddy Ritter.
Oh, so really?
Yeah. So he didn't work against JYD per se, but he worked against Big Daddy Ritter. They would feud over their North American title. I believe they had one of the original ladder matches.
Really?
Yeah. Remember when WWE came out with that Crash and Burn, that ladder match DVD?
Yeah.
The first one. Like it was like one of the original matches featured on there.
Yeah, there's a couple of things from him back then.
Yeah,
but Stampede's hard footage to find too.
Right. By the way, we don't have Eric right now. He lost power.
That's not you, Eric?
No, he just texted me. He said he lost power.
I thought he was listening the whole time.
No, his lights just flicker. You know how our lights flickered?
Yeah.
He's completely gone.
Okay.
So
I guess it's just the two of us.
Yeah. Good thing I forced you to do the show.
The big handsome men. Yeah, I think there was a little bit. I don't know if he worked with Bad News. When he was Bad News Allen back then.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Obviously, he gets to him in WWF at SummerSlam.
Yeah, at the
was it at 90 or no?
Yeah, at 90. That was the match with Bossman as the referee.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But yeah, like they worked, and I think that was probably Bad News's first or that was Bad News's last big angle in the company.
Yeah. Well, Jake's a hell of an angle to work. But I love his. I do love going back and watching old Jake Roberts before the WWF, because I think there's a level to him that's different. I won't say missing in the WWF, but I think it's kind of like two different bodies of work.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun about it, is that he's not necessarily Jake the Snake yet. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was wondering why you were tickling my side. No, Eric, you're good. So I wonder what's going on. Did the wind pick up again?
I don't know.
Like, because I know we flickered.
Unless Eric's about to get like a SWAT team come in and take him from the house and stuff, and it's a whole plot on Eric. And then this would be an incredibly different twist on this episode.
Yeah, well, if he one of those, when he pissed off the SpongeBob and Thundercats fans.
Yeah, maybe it's not.
Yeah. Well, you did this time.
We don't usually lose power.
I know we flickered. Like I said, ours flickered, and I did not know. Like, I don't know if the wind is just like picking up. It better not do any of this shit tomorrow during the cartoon show.
Yeah.
We'll plug that at the end.
Plug it now while we're on it.
Yeah. Tomorrow night, when Tunes Combine, the Cartoon Classic continues. If Eric has power at that time.
Yes.
Yeah, he just said knock on wood. If Eric has power at that time, if not, I'm probably gonna have to go to his house to go get him.
Yes.
To do the show. But Dangle and I are gonna be on. Dangle's gonna be a special guest. Sean's gonna
go ahead.
Sean's gonna be with us. Sean's buddy Dave, I believe, is gonna be with us, and we're gonna be doing the superhero / crime fighters league.
Yes.
You want to tell them who's gonna be on?
We got Spider-Man from the 90s. We got the Justice League. We got Batman, and we got Superman, baby.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a fun one. These are some of my favorite cartoons that I, grew up with as a kid, and that I remember watching vividly. I've seen every episode of Everything We're Doing at least a couple times.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk about it and join you for your cartoon show. I think it's my debut.
Yeah, for the battles, yeah.
Yeah.
You did when Tunes Combined when I was doing the crossovers, but
So there you go.
all right. I think he's trying to come.
He's in a cave somewhere.
What the hell?
He's in a bunker. Hey, yeah.
Now, power's back. Hold on, let me go on my computer again.
All right, yeah. Do what you got to do, Eric. We'll stall for time. If this doesn't get views, I don't know what does.
Like Eric losing power.
Eric losing, and then him coming in the fucking bunker. Like,
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah,
perk your spirits back up.
I'm perked. Not Percocet.
Yeah. But
I'm
let's
perked
kind
up.
of get into, because I don't know if he's actually watched any of this, but you want to talk a little bit about him teaming with Gino and Baby Doll and in World Class?
Yeah, I love that. Because
Jake, I mean, not Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of gathered that. But no, I thought him and Gino was it's a cool combination. And then Baby Doll is one of the more underrated female managers of all time.
By the way, she was just known as Andrea the Lady Giant at the time.
Oh shit.
She wasn't even known as Baby Doll because technically she started in World Class. She wasn't known as Baby Doll yet.
I just think of Baby Doll, Missy Hyatt, Dark Journey as like those unsung heroes of women in the business, because they had a role, they played a role, and it was a great role, and they got a lot of heat from the crowd. And yeah, they weren't necessarily wrestling, but sometimes they were. And it was always a big attraction. And I think they don't everyone thinks about like Sunny, but to me, like Missy Hyatt has a way more impactful career than Sunny had.
I mean, I would put Sunshine on there too.
Of course. Sunshine, Precious, all of them.
Yeah.
And they're just like the unsung heroes of the business. And they weren't, maybe everybody wasn't paying attention, but some guys were paying a ticket to see, Missy Hyatt and a few of the others, and those big, they were a part of big programs, and they meant a lot to wrestling.
Yeah.
So it was nice seeing Gino and Jake and Baby Doll all together.
Yeah. They worked, because then after Jake left and Baby Doll left, and they went to, because basically they were kind of all put together. All right. So obviously you remember, because you did extensive research on when Chris Adams and Jimmy Garvin were feuding, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they would do the mixed tags, and then Jimmy Garvin took off and went to the AWA.
Yes.
All right. And then they gave Sunshine, a vacation. They gave Sunshine a vacation. So they were going to bring it. They brought in Stella Mae French. Her character was a truck driver, and she was she was Sunshine's godmother.
Yeah.
And she was going to come in, and she was originally going to be Chris Adams' tag team partner in match against Jimmy Garvin and Precious. Jimmy Garvin and Precious take off. They go to AWA.
Yes.
So, and then Chris Adams decides, okay, well, I don't need to do any of this stuff. So now it's going to end up being Gino Hernandez and Andrea the Lady Giant versus Stella Mae French and Mike Von Erich.
Oh.
So they start doing that. So she actually cost Gino the America's title against Mike.
Okay.
Right? So now you bring in Jake, and it's like, okay, so it's going to be Jake and Gino and Andrea versus Stella Mae and Kevin and Mike, or Kevin and Carrie, any iteration of the Von Erichs.
I have no internet right now, so I just have to go on my phone.
Okay. Yeah, after the power goes out, it takes a while for the internet to come back.
Yeah, so I didn't want to get. I didn't want you guys to wait.
Okay. Well, we appreciate
Keep
that.
going, though.
But so anyway, so we have this, so they started doing those matches. It was 6-person tags. Like I said, any iteration of the Von Erichs. Usually it would be Kevin and usually it would be Kevin and Carrie, because they were the better team.
Yeah.
But Mike would be kind of thrust in there as the like, especially if they wanted Carrie to do something else.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Is World Class the best tag team territory? And if not, what is?
The best tag team territory?
For tag team wrestling as a whole.
Oh,
you gotta think of, there's so many, and you gotta think of everything.
Carolinas.
Okay.
Because the Carolinas started out originally, they were a tag team territory.
We'll name the highlights.
You had Greg Valentine and Ric Flair.
Yeah.
You had the Andersons, obviously the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. Johnny Weaver and Wahoo McDaniel, I believe, were a team.
And Rockers? No.
Rock and Roll Express.
I mean, Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah. Midnight Express. So
Nice.
they started out, basically, they were a tag team, and they were a tag team territory from like the 60s, when the Crockett's kind of bought into the territory, up until sometime in the in the 70s, when a guy named John Rangley, who was married to Frances Crockett, he kind of changed things and made it into a single territory.
Yes.
Well, then one day they realized that he was fucking around on Frances, so he got ousted.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they were, so the Carolinas were definitely like the better tag.
Is that where the highlight Midnight and Rock and Rolls took place, or
no? Those took place in the feud started in Mid-South. Their best matches, though, I think, were in the Carolinas.
okay?
I think their best matches didn't start, though, until Dennis Condrey left and Stan Lane came in.
Yeah.
I think Bobby and Stan versus the Rock and Rolls were the better matches.
Okay.
I'm with you. I do have a soft spot for Connery, though.
Yeah. Well, he's the original.
But yeah. Listen, the tag team wrestling, goes so deep, and it's correct because WWF is not known for the best tag team wrestling.
No.
They're known for highs and lows with it. Whereas, there's certain
peaks and valleys.
Like I think of and I know it's technically trios matches now, but a 6-man tag. But the Midnights and the Freebirds and the fucking Von Erichs.
Yeah.
And, how much tag team shit was going on in World Class. Like it felt like it was the world title matches did not seem as important as when the Von Erichs would get together to take on whoever the bad guy.
Well, yeah, because Flair was the world champion because they were associated with the NWA.
They had the Texas title, but
yeah, the Texas title and the Americas title. But the main title was Flair, and they weren't Flair would only come in, a couple times a year. There were all those times where. I'm ready for my nap. There were all those times where Fritz was trying to get the title on one of the boys.
Yeah. But so it's crazy to think about. But yeah, he had really good work there.
Yeah.
He had good work everywhere he went. But let's get into the WWF run. Jake the Snake Roberts, get into his debut, everything surrounding it, how they bring him in. You are the wrestling. I feel like the wrestling encyclopedia has been used before.
All right, so basically they bring him in as as Jake the Snake Roberts, but they give him an actual snake.
Yeah.
Like the snake was just part of the name.
Yeah, he was
in
Jake the
Mid-South.
Snake Roberts before he got there.
Yeah, but he never had a snake with him.
No.
They actually gave him a snake. They said, all right, and call him Damien. By the way, it was never always the same snake. Like they had a guy.
Well, and wasn't Ricky called the Dragon elsewhere as well, or no? Or was that just
No, he became the Dragon in the WWF.
Okay.
Now he would carry that nickname for years after.
Because I always remember him as Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
But no, he became the Dragon in '85.
Okay.
But no, so he gets the snake, and Damien was a python. And what he would do is he would drop guys with the DDT and then wrap the snake around him after.
And did he start as a babyface or a heel?
Heel. He was a heel. He came in early '86, and he worked WrestleMania 2 against a guy by the name of George Wells. And then he had that incredible feud with Ricky Steamboat, where on a Saturday night's main event, they were going to have a match, but then they decided to shoot an angle. And Ricky told Jake, it's like, drop me with the DDT on the concrete. And Jake dropped him so hard that he actually knocked Ricky out. And he's just like, oh my God, I killed Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
And then they had, some really good matches. And then in '87, they kind of experiment with doing the babyface turn. But like I said earlier, they were also kind of planning on a program for with Hogan.
Yes.
And then he really didn't, I don't think he really hit his stride until '88 when he started the feud with Ravishing Rick Rude over Cheryl. Who, by the way, Jake, I believe is actually, I don't know if him and Cheryl are still married, but I know they're still on speaking terms. Although I think they've actually gotten married and remarried a couple of times.
Yeah.
But when he started that feud with Jake the Snake, it was very funny because it was on an episode of TV where Rude tries to pick Cheryl out of the crowd, and she's like, I'm not here to see you. I'm here to see my husband, Jake the Snake Roberts. And Jake comes out, and then Rick Rude just starts pounding on him. And then we have they have several angles with each other, including when Rude had the tights airbrushed.
Yeah.
That looked like Cheryl.
Yeah.
And Jake said, if I see you wearing those tights again, they're coming off. And so Rude revealed in the match one time that he had them on.
Yeah.
So Jake came out and bare-assed Rude, on television.
And this is kind of what made Jake a babyface, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were already kind of cheering him, but this is this, I think, really did cement the babyface run.
Yeah. And Rude's a perfect heel to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Those two they had a great program with each other, I think.
Yeah.
It's one of his more memorable. I wouldn't say it's his most known feud in the WWF, but it's got to be up there.
Probably top 3.
Macho.
All right. Macho, I will definitely put it number 1.
Yes.
Number 2, it's either going to be, it could either be Rude or DiBiase.
Yeah, him and DiBiase had a lot of good stuff.
All right. And, you do have to put Andre in there.
Yeah. What about the stuff with The Undertaker?
The stuff with The Undertaker was good. The problem is that how it kind of ended.
Yeah.
But it ended because, Jake was leaving.
92 is such a weird year, too. of like
It's one of my favorite year. Like 91, 92 is my favorite. Well, 88 to 92 is my favorite time period in wrestling. Period. End of sentence.
Yeah.
Maybe exclamation point, depending on how excited I get about it. But the thing is that it's also not necessarily the best money-making year for a lot of places, because between 88 and 92, a lot of places went out of business.
Well, and that's the thing, 92, and especially, 92 for the WWF, I think, is different than every other company, because, yes, there's some good stuff in WCW 92. There's obviously, bad booking and stuff going on as well.
Yeah.
And some weird performances and stuff like that. Whereas the WWF in 92, the business isn't as hot as it once was, like in the, mid to late 80s. But it's one of the best years in WWF for like all the angles. Like that's the 92 Royal Rumble. That's Ric Flair.
Yeah.
That's like, there's so much going on in 92.
But also too, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, which again, not going to get into.
Yeah.
Even though I keep saying that there's a lot of stuff we're not going to get into, but yet I try to segue to it. But like, so there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so it kind of takes away from what the WWF is doing.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of guys, because you have a lot of guys in there, because you have a lot of guys moving out, and a lot of guys coming up.
Yeah.
Like a Shawn Michaels, like a Bret Hart.
They were developing stars.
Yeah, they were developing, especially these two stars.
Yeah.
Yep. These two guys were going to be the biggest stars in the company.
Yeah, you could tell.
And they were.
Jake, kind of on the way out. Another thing I kind of want to mention about is, well, there's plenty of things I'll mention about his WWF run. The feud with Earthquake, and when Earthquake squashed Damien.
Oh, that was a big deal. And that's kind of what cemented Jake as a babyface. I mean, he was already doing the run, but that was like, you got a lot of sympathy for Jake in that moment.
Yeah, because what they did was they had Earthquake squash Damien. Now, what they did was Damien was not in the bag. So Earthquake did not actually sit on a snake and kill it, okay? But what they did was, how they made the bag rattle?
Yeah.
They put like an electric chew toy or something in there,
an
electric toy that moved around.
Yeah.
So that's what it made it look like, that, Damien was having a seizure after getting, killed.
Yeah.
Or, those nervous twitches that dead bodies usually do, when they're running out of air. And the whole thing, like with Jake, was because originally they were just going to throw him out of the ring, and Jimmy Hart was just going to hold on to his legs.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't get back in the ring. And he goes, how about this? How about you tie me in the ropes? And if the referee, and when the referee goes to untie me, Jimmy Hart restrains him. Which, to be honest with you, any referee, Earl Hebner could kick Jimmy Hart's ass.
Yeah.
Because anybody, like toddlers, could kick Jimmy Hart's ass. Because Jimmy Hart's not that tough of a guy. I mean, guys like 83 years old now and still looks like he's, 30. But, that's what happens when you get the Kenny Rogers plastic surgery. So Jake had that happen because he's just like, it'll get you more heat and it'll make me look more helpless. And they had some like good matches out of it, including a Madison Square Garden match where Earthquake actually took the DDT.
Yeah.
So, there was another good feud, but that was towards the end of Jake's babyface run.
Yeah.
Because that was Jake's last feud as a babyface.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
he was mostly heel in WWF, right?
No, he had the babyface stuff in there.
He from about 87 to 91, he was babyface.
And who was? Do you think? Would you put him at number 2 under Hogan? because you had much more too. It's hard
Okay.
because you had so many. The golden age, the golden era is the hardest to judge on stars because there's so many of them.
All right. So I'm going to take a specific year. Okay. 88.
Yeah.
Hogan, Savage. I would probably put Jake at number 3. To me, to me, Jake would go number 3. Warrior would go 4. Duggan would go 5. That's your top 5 baby faces.
Yeah.
Top 5 single baby faces in the company.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they would intersweat, and then Beefcake would be number 6.
Fucking Brutus.
But
even he was over.
Yeah, well, no, they were all over. That's why, like, WWF, when they had baby faces, they had really good baby faces. Now, in 89, I would put him in top 3 again under Hogan and Warrior.
Yeah. Macho Man's a heel.
Yes. 1990, it'd be the same thing. I don't think Jake fell out of that top babyface echelon until like 91, like before they started turning him heel. Because if you notice a lot, like if you go back and look at a lot of like outside products that WWF did,
yeah,
Hogan, Warrior, some stuff with Savage, but then also Boss Man.
Yeah.
Like I think I've got it. They're either up in the attic or they might be in the upstairs bathroom. I have old WWF toothbrushes.
Yeah.
Okay. They're kids' toothbrushes. I have Hogan.
Do you use them?
No, they're still in the box. So that's why I actually think they might be upstairs in the attic somewhere, or I did put them in the bathroom. I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. But Hogan, Warrior, Bossman, LOD. And there might have been a Savage one. But those were all your toothbrushes.
Wow.
Because they started actually really marketing Bossman.
Yeah.
So Bossman kind of took Jake's place as like top tier babyface.
Do you think they're worth any money?
The toothbrushes?
Yeah.
I mean,
now the early heel run.
I don't know.
The early heel run. Do you remember the match with him and Macho Man in the Garden?
92?
No, I think it was early on. I thought
87?
Yeah, I think it was either 87 or 86.
I remember the Saturday night's main event match that they did in late 86.
Okay. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I remember them fucking burning the house down.
Well, yeah, because according to Jake, they were threatened by Dick Ebersol.
I think it was 87 because I was starting that before we went on air.
Okay.
Why you still had power. This has got to be the first time that one of us has lost power during the show. I'd like to know what the hell caused it.
Probably the wind.
They did go at it in the Garden in 92, though. You're right.
Yeah. That was actually probably one of the last best garden cards that was put on television.
Yeah.
Because I saw you guys flicker and then mine went up.
The Saturday night's main event was 86, by the way.
Yeah.
But those two have great chemistry.
Yeah.
No matter what they're doing. And like revisiting that later, especially with the snake bite and shit. Like it's just that thing always worked. Him and Macho Man, I think, go down probably his best feud in the WWF is him and Macho.
Jake's?
Yeah.
I'd probably second that, yeah. If not Rude.
Yeah. But if you're talking about heel Jake, and a lot of people
heel Jake, yeah.
And heel Jake is the best Jake. As his babyface run is fondly remembered and good, but I think he's a great, calculated, cold, bad guy. Like a mercenary.
Oh, you know, when we get to the WCW stuff, when he had the debut against Sting.
Yeah.
Or not against Sting, but when he attacked Sting in I think it was Baltimore.
Okay.
And it was Rick Rude and Nikita Koloff for the U.S. title. Sting's doing commentary, and Cactus Jack comes out, and Sting comes out and beats the crap out of Rude and Cactus. And then Jake comes out of the crowd, and DDTs Sting on a chair a couple of times. And Jim Ross is going nuts.
I thought that was going to work. I mean, not everybody's a fan of the coal miners glove match. And it doesn't go down as one of the best stipulations and all that. But I think there was a lot of money in Jake and Sting that didn't get.
Well,
And the way that he, left, and it sucked. That, like, I guess he was promised a spot on the booking committee. He was promised all sorts of
so K. Allen Fry worked out the contract. K. Allen Fry, who was the executive vice president of wrestling operations or whatever the fuck, he worked everything out. He was going to get Jake in. He gets, it doesn't work out with him. They go a different direction. Unfortunately, that direction is Bill Watts.
Yes.
Bill Watts does not like Jake the Snake Roberts because of they burned bridges, or bridges were burned in Mid-South / UWF.
Yeah.
So Bill Watts sees the big contract that Jake has, uses it as toilet paper. He's like, you're not getting any of this. You're not going to be on the booking committee. I'm cutting your pay. Go ahead and fuck yourself. Okay. Bill Watts,
ruthless.
Bill Watts ruined WCW. All right. A lot of people will say it. Bill Watts was an asshole.
He was, but he's still top 5 bookers to ever live.
Yeah, well, Mid-South was fine.
Well, it's not fine. It's one of the greatest
Yeah.
wrestling territories to ever exist.
Well, no, what I mean is that he did Mid-South great. It's one of the best territories, like you just said.
Yeah.
He was way past his prime here.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to take wrestling back to Mid-South.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to work. We're in 1992, not 1984.
Tell me I'm not allowed to jump off the top rope, you son of a bitch?
Yeah. And then, so he ruined things with Jake, and then Jake had the Halloween Havoc match with Sting, and then he was done right after. I mean, Watts would follow him out the door a few months later.
And it sucks that all we could get out of that was the Coal Miners Club match, which wasn't terrible, and it kind of showed potential for a program with him and Sting.
The only thing that sucked about that was when Jake was bit by his own snake, but he had to hold the snake on his face.
Yeah.
Yep.
It just it wasn't good. It didn't look believable.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it was like a mid-tier match, and I thought you could have got a lot more out of him in that role. And the way that WCW was in 92 around that time, I thought he could have fit in great. And I thought he could have fucking, really made it a lot better.
Yeah, didn't they do the mini movie, the Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, and Sting was in a bar that had 15 midgets or something?
Yeah, I think so. Well, little people.
Little people. I apologize. 15 little fellas.
Yes.
Might have even. Did I just get a?
I mean, that really is like a banned word now.
Yeah. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
But yeah, 15 little people. Some with bandanas on it, some with parrots on there. But
yeah,
it was real. It was real goofy. But that's the way Dusty Rhodes, because Dusty Rhodes was the one in charge of all those fucking mini movies.
Go get a water.
But yeah, that would have worked, but it didn't, because he just when you can't get along with the booker, it's hard to get that stuff to work. Yep. And when he left the WWF in 92, it should have been, his WWF run. He wanted to be the next Pat Patterson. He wanted Pat Patterson's head booking job, but Vince is like, Pat's coming back. You can be on the booking team, but you can't have Pat's job. And Jake didn't like that. But you want to get into his return to WWF?
We can, but first, do you think he could have done it? Because I think he's for a non-booker, he's one of the more creative minds ever in the business.
Yeah.
Like when you think
Yeah.
of guys, like if you were like, yo, come up with a list of guys that you think could have had a role in creative or could have like done some booking and been successful at it. Jake Roberts would kind of be towards the top of my list.
Well, he booked in Georgia, I think, for a little while.
Okay.
Like Ole had him as like a co-booker or something. So
He's just a smart, creative mind, and I know,
yeah.
So I just think that he could have at least added something, like a cerebral aspect to the WWF that really wasn't there at the time.
Yeah.
So, but
they were set on their ways. They liked Pat.
and we've seen, really great wrestlers try to do that, and
Yeah.
Ric Flair's WCW wasn't that great.
Would you say his best run was Mid-South?
No,
It would be WWF.
it's the golden age.
Yeah.
Because that's when he was watched by the most eyes. That's when he was the most popular. That's when little kids either loved him or were scared of him. That's
when he made probably the most money.
That was he's the biggest deal. His territory work is awesome and fun to go back to watch. And those were still like Mid-South was hot when he was there. But like you were saying earlier, the JYD steam was kind of coming off as well.
Yeah.
And also it's not like territory hot and WWF hot, national exposure, two totally different things.
Yeah.
And the wrestling territories are amazing, and I love them, and I love going back and see what footage there is that I can. But WWF was that there's the reason that like every company now has to compete with the history and legacy of WWF, and it's what these guys were doing in the 80s. Yes, it's the WWF and it's Bob Backlund, and it's so much more than that, and it's all the old school guys, and but when they really became a national big name was around this time, and Jake was a huge part of that, in my opinion. So I'd say that's that, and the more impactful, the more entertaining, and even some of the better matches.
I mean, his matches in Mid-South were good, but they weren't like, I mean, if you go back and look at it, like you could say, if we were talking about Hacksaw Jim Duggan, I think Hacksaw Jim Duggan had better matches in Mid-South.
Mid-South.
Can we talk about the Boss Man match at Saturday Night Main Event? Didn't they do that in 92 or no?
What, Jake and Bossman?
Yeah, that never took place?
No.
Okay.
They were Jake and Bossman.
I'm going back on memories here that they jumbled together a little bit.
No, he had in 92, he had the match with Savage on Saturday Night's Main Event. That's where they blew off the feud.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to Jake, it is because of they had to blow off the feud because they were going to take the feud all the way to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But after, and I feel like, we glossed over this, and I feel like people are going to have our asses. We glossed over the angle where he slapped Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When he
We
slapped
did a
Elizabeth.
pay-per-view for that.
Huh?
I think we did a pay-per-view. I remember doing something.
Yeah, we did. We did the pay-per-view review on it, the Tuesday in Texas, which that's remembered for two things: Hogan and Undertaker in the rematch, where they ended up stripping Hogan of the title right after.
Yeah,
and this angle.
Yep.
Nobody remembers Bret Hart and Skinner, even though it went 18 fucking minutes. Nobody remembers Bulldog Warlord because they wrestled at every pay-per-view that year.
Yeah.
And nobody remembers Repo and DiBiase versus Virgil and El Matador.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the Saturday, so after he did where he slapped Elizabeth, apparently Elizabeth's parents were not very happy with that. This is a story Jake tells.
Yeah.
They kicked Randy apparently out of the house. This according to Jake. Now, it doesn't necessarily make sense because Liz's parents were already not talking to Randy to begin with, because that's kind of where Randy and Liz start having their problems.
Yeah.
So they're already so them kicking Randy out of the house, I don't think had anything to do with the fact that Liz was involved in a wrestling angle.
Yeah. But it didn't help.
But according to Jake, like Elizabeth's family told Randy, it's like like this feud has to end. Like this, we don't like what happened to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I guess he told Jake, he's like, brother, I'm not allowed in my in-laws' house anymore. And apparently he wasn't allowed in there for the longest, for a long time after that. But it's like, you were only together for like another 4 months after this. So,
yeah. Very impactful angle, though.
yeah.
Very impactful.
Oh yeah.
Definitely the biggest. Him and Steamboat had some really good shit, though.
That was his big heel angle in the mid 80s.
Yeah. And that was huge on Saturday night's main event. And
yeah, I think that's what you were thinking of.
Yeah. And it was a big deal because NBC, the exposure, and that's when Saturday night was almost like as big as WrestleMania, to be honest. That's when like that kind of like it meant a big amount. Like they've tried to make it mean as much sense, but television just doesn't mean as much. So it doesn't.
I believe they did October of 86. And they did the snake pit match. And I believe that episode of Saturday night's main event, which was also headlined by, was that Hogan? Hogan and Orndorff too? I believe.
Can Google it.
But those matches on the card, along with Roddy Piper versus Iron Sheik.
What was the date?
October of 86.
Okay.
But I believe that episode of Saturday night's main event garnered about 11 million viewers. Or the rating was like an 11 point something.
It was Orndorff. You were right.
Okay. But I believe that the rating for that Saturday night's main event was a 10 or 11.
Yeah, it was super high. So, yeah, like, and that was just like, I feel like you have to go. You have the what could be with him and Warrior and him and Hogan.
Yeah.
You have those feuds to kind of look at to like that they were almost angles, and it's like, oh, that what could have been. But the stuff that he did with everybody else from fucking like you said, I think it really is Macho, Steamboat, and Ted DiBiase's a good pick too.
And Rude.
And
the blinding with Rick Martel.
And I do think, I know Undertaker was already a world champion by this, right? The stuff with Hogan had already happened.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I do believe that he kind of like helped Undertaker get pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's when Undertaker was starting to really feel himself and get with the character. And I think a lot of that was with Jake. And I just think he had really good matches. We talked about the Bad News Brown at SummerSlam 90.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people shit on this, but the blindfold match with Martel at 7.
I think it's one of the better blindfold matches of all time.
Yeah. And the angle to set up, he gets blinded, and then they do the thing again. And then shortly after he gets blinded, that's when he, gives Brother Love the DDT on the set.
Yeah, and and it's crazy because even the minor feuds, like you think, like we almost forgot to talk about Rick Martel, and that was such a big. That's one of the biggest moments of Rick Martel.
Once the light bulb clicked on, I was like, "Oh shit, I better mention that."
Yeah, thank God, because that's one of the biggest moments in Rick Martel's career. And when he sprayed him with the arrogance, and it was a huge fucking deal, and the whole blinding and everything. And that was another great run for Jake's babyface stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard because, like I said, I do think he's one of the better heels, and he is better as a heel. But his babyface run in the WWF is just as good, and that's when they were at their hottest as well. So it's. I mean, his whole run was great. Before we get to the return, we do got to mention that he did make some good money, or drew some good money with Conan and fucking Triple A in Mexico. After the WCW thing, he went down to Mexico. And him and Conan was a pretty big feud down there, from what I've heard. I don't know. I don't think I've seen matches.
I don't think I've really seen the matches either. I know they tried to do stuff with him in Smoky Mountain, but he was no showing a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the Conan stuff, because Conan, as much shit as he gets, Conan was a really good worker.
Yeah.
And Conan also knew how to set things up to draw money.
Well, and wasn't he doing a lot of the booking back then in AAA and stuff?
In AAA, yeah,
Or at
because
least he
Antonio Pena was just like, hey, you do this.
And he was like a talent relations guy. He meant a lot for that promotion, and he was a big star in Mexico. And it honestly, it did translate as a huge, like you were talking about the golden era. WCW fucking NWO era will always be my favorite era of professional wrestling. And I have so many that I love and like adore, and like I have a top 3. But WCW is, and Conan is an over star in that era. He's over as fuck with the crowd. He was their road dog. And fucking everybody loved when he would come out, do the rowdy. And like he was a big fucking deal. So I mean, but in Jake and Conan did a little thing. Now the return to WWF, I think you can really just encapture it in just it was the Stone Cold moment for me. He is the guy that faces, Stone Cold in the King of the Ring, finals in '96. The infamous, one where Triple H was supposed to go out and win it, but then the curtain call happens, and you have the infamous Vince line to Triple H: "You're gonna eat a lot of shit. You're gonna learn to like it because you have to take the fall because Shawn's the champion. These 2 guys are leaving, so you're not winning King of the Ring." They act like it lasted a lot longer. Yes, he did do some jobs like Duke the Dumpster Josie and stuff, but he did bounce back pretty quick. But
he was Intercontinental Champion 4 months after this.
So like they act like it was like he got character assassinated for like fucking years and years. But I mean, and he goes out and wins the next year. But in '96, they weren't going to go with Hunter anymore. So they went with Stone Cold. Turned out to be a really good idea. But that moment, because Jake was doing a saved character of kind of like a Bible thumping, like I've been saying, I'm a religious guy now.
Born again
Christian. And that was kind of his deal. And that is what sparks the promo for Stone Cold to say, you
thump your Bible, you talk about your Psalms in John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whooped your ass."
Yeah, and that's the infamous, and that's probably the best thing that.
And Doc Hendricks, Michael Hayes is just like.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was probably the best thing he's ever done in the WWF, too, on the screen.
Yeah, when he did that, and then, like, when they freeze-framed it on Legends of Wrestling, and he goes, "You see that face right there? Money."
Yeah.
And it's like, not necessarily Doc's face, but, like,
Yeah, so, you were the thing that got that over. But he was still, I mean, it was an important part of it. But Stone Cold fucking... That was the moment, and then the next night you see the Austin 3:16 signs and shit, and then they're like, we're off to the races. And it all started with that, and, Jake is a catalyst to that. That's a promo for after beating Jake, talking about Jake. And even though it's not like the biggest thing, for him solo that he's been, but he was a part of a magic moment.
Yeah.
He set up a magic moment that still talked about to this day. And I think that's one of the more highly. Do you want to talk about anything else in that return? The Royal Rumble performance we talked about a couple of weeks ago, 96, right? With Vader and stuff. And he was the hottest babyface in that one. 96 was a bad year for WWF, but I mean, Jake Roberts was the biggest fucking star. Like when he got eliminated, the crowd was pissed, and when he ended, the biggest pops of the night were from him. That's the only other thing I really remember.
Yeah, the stuff with Jerry Lawler kind of sucked because it was about his issues or whatever, his past issues with alcohol. But what I will say is Survivor Series 96, he was part of Rock's debut.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And when because they let him eliminate Jerry Lawler, because when Jerry Lawler humiliated him, Jerry Lawler made sure to give Jake stuff back. Like make sure to take stuff for Jake. Like they did a match on Raw. Jake comes out and it looks like he was drunk, and then Gorilla Monsoon was going to come out and tell him, "Hey, you're not going to wrestle." And then Jake looked at the referee, at Gorilla Monsoon, and referee Jack Doan, and said, "No, I'm fine. I'm tricking him." And Lawler's not paying attention. He's cutting a promo to the crowd in the other corner. And then they come back from commercial, and he's like, "Jake, I'll come to you." And then Jake hits him with the DDT right away.
Yeah.
And then, pours all these booze down Lawler's throat. So Lawler, even though the feud kind of sucked because it got way too personal, Lawler was good enough to where Lawler gave Jake stuff back.
Yeah.
And then Survivor Series when
Lawler's always been a great heel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they did the Survivor Series match, and Lawler's going like and going like that, mocking Jake, and then Jake does the thing where he goes over the top, hooks the DDT, pins him, and then Jim Ross is just like, "We'll see you later, King. We'll see you on Raw tomorrow night." Like it fucking
Did he show up the next night?
like the 96, starting in 96, more 97, and then like obviously later those Attitude Era years with Jim Ross, and when he got to cut like the funny one-liners or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the stuff like when he was working with Vince, and then obviously also working with Lawler, and like he got to do the thing where it's like, what the hell is Bob Backlund doing here?
Oh yeah, I mean Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler are still the best combination.
Or like when they when Stephanie and Trish got into that cat fight at the Royal Rumble 2001, and they go over the Spanish announce table, and JR is just like, look out, Carlos and Hugo.
And that's the thing. They are the best wrestling combination. Anything involving Jerry Lawler and a woman back then does not view the same looking back. But for a heel character, and he was a heel color guy, he was the best. And you don't always want to hear him talking about puppies and fucking, he would get pretty, and then JR get mad at him though. But that stuff was still kind of fun. Him and JR are the greatest combination to ever exist. They were the voice to one of the greatest eras, and then personal a favorite of it. They were still going strong in the Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah.
And I grew up to them. So, but
He does
Jerry
grow up
Lawler also one of the better heels for that new generation era.
Yeah.
When they didn't have a lot of good stuff going on, they had some good baby faces, and Shawn was still healing, but him and Bret Hart, and then they're building Diesel and stuff. Jerry Lawler was one of the better underneath heels, in my opinion.
Yeah. And like the whole thing with Jake, it's not necessarily revered, but I give Lawler a lot of credit for allowing himself to be humiliated.
Yeah, and he gave Bret Hart a lot
Jake.
of good stuff, and he fucking shoved Bret Hart's toe in his mouth. So.
Yeah. And his own foot.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so definitely, but the return kind of left a bit to be desired, but it was also his best stuff was a bit behind him.
Yeah.
That's his time.
We get appearances in ECW and stuff afterwards. I think the big, meat on the bones, like, oh my God, he's coming back, was the AEW stuff. And him, accompanying Lance Archer. And I thought if it was
going to be good,
that could have been money. He was a good heel. He was doing some weird shit with Brandy, but still, he was a good. Those were like really vicious bad guys. I didn't love the with Lance and Cody. I thought they left a bit to be desired. But the storyline there with Jake and Lance, I thought they had money, and I don't know whatever went with that. Lance Archer's another one of those guys that it seemed like he should have been a bigger deal for them than he was. But him and Jake, I thought, were a cool combination.
Yeah. And then, like, when they were trying to – I remember when they turned Archer babyface for a little while. And then they were going to – but then they figured the only way that was going to work is if they took Jake off TV.
Yeah.
Which they did for a while. Well, because Jake was also sick.
Yeah.
Jake has emphysema.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it could have worked, and they could have done a lot more with it. But sometimes it just feels like AEW just stops trying after a while.
Yeah, they don't really know where to go with a certain storyline, which sucks. But because I thought Lance and Jake, could have done a lot more together.
Another thing I do have to mention, we're going to rewind a little bit, and we talked about this when we did our Royal Rumble rankings when we talked about 88.
Yeah.
Jake runs in. Tito Santana is about to get dumped over the top rope by the Hart Foundation and Butch Reed.
Yeah.
Butch Reed has his feet elevated off the ground.
Yeah.
So Jake runs in. He's the number 5th entry. Jake runs in and just dumps Butch right over the top rope.
Yeah.
Jake Roberts eliminated the first ever person from the Royal Rumble.
That's amazing.
So it was one of those things where it was just like Butch wasn't even paying attention. And then
Yeah.
Jake just comes up, just like, bye. Like, that was cool. Jake Roberts, he got the work. I mean, he got the team with Hogan several times, including that Survivor Series where it looked like the dream team
Yeah.
of Jake and Hogan and Demolition.
Yeah.
But like none of them got to look strong except for Hogan, because the entire fucking team except for DiBiase all got fucking disqualified
Yeah.
for beating up Hogan.
Yeah. He had so many legendary stuff in the WWF and before that, but especially in that golden age, I think Jake really shined.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, when you talk about that era, you're like Hogan, Roddy Piper, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ricky Steamboat. It's just legendary figures. And he's a well-deserved spot in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let me ask you this, and Eric can chime in too. What would you think about somewhere down the line, and it doesn't have to be within like the next month or so, it can be in a couple months or whatever. What would you think about doing like a top we did top 50 WCW.
Yeah.
What would you think of doing like a top 30 or top 50 golden era WWF?
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm down. I had some ideas too, so I told Daniel earlier this week too.
No, top 50 wrestlers, like we did the WCW.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down. Yeah,
I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, we can figure out like when to do it or not, and I'll put the polls up in Wrestling Through the Years and in the Wrestling 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah,
because I get a lot of help from those guys.
But this was a fun time. Final thoughts on Jake Roberts' legendary career, one of the greatest heels to ever do it, one of the better, more underrated. Well, I wouldn't even say underrated because everyone knows how great it is, but one of the better promos of all time. Great in-ring work, the innovator of the DDT, and one of the more brilliant minds in ring in the business.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. His promos are very underappreciated.
I think top 5 on the mic.
When he cut the promo after he slapped Elizabeth, and when he basically Mean Gene was about to throw the microphone at him, when he's just like, you know what? I could turn her into something that even I could want. Mean Gene's like, you got to be kidding. You are a sicko, Jake Roberts.
Yeah.
And it's just like he just has that ability to just make people just believe.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the most important thing.
I'll ask you guys this before we head out. Is there anybody in the business right now that you would compare him to? I have somebody in mind, but it probably is off base. But
he's not in the business anymore. I think they tried to compare him more to The Undertaker, but I always saw more Jake Bray Wyatt.
I can think of somebody now that wants to try to be Jake Roberts, but it's not working, and that's Cross.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I was gonna say kind of Hangman, but
he's kind of got that Jake Roberts look.
Yeah, that's why I say that, and that Jake Roberts intensity.
Yeah. And if you watch his promo the other day, he's got that soft spokenness in the voice.
Yeah, that's why I was asking you to you guys this.
Good job, Eric.
Thank you.
And this isn't backhanded. What did he say? He said Hangman.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Especially babyface Hangman.
Yeah, like especially like that from that promo the other day. He did it, a lot of it soft spoken. I mean, he got riled up a little bit, which sometimes could happen with Jake. He could get riled up. But yeah, no, that was a good comparison. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't do anything to make me regret saying that.
I'm trying not to.
So next week.
Yeah, did we even have a plan?
Yeah, we did have a plan.
All right.
Next week, Eric picked it. We're doing Survivor Series 2002.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
To coincide with Elimination Chamber coming up.
Yep.
So that's what we're going on next.
You know that's an interesting pick. First ever Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
Madison Square Garden.
Brock Lesnar, Big Show. The Dudleys reunited, and it feels okay.
It's in New York, so it's going to be.
And Billy Kidman, Jamie Noble for the cruiserweight title.
Billy Kidman, baby. So there's a lot of good stuff on that show. It'll be fun to come back and check that out. We already told people about the cartoon podcast tomorrow. Tomorrow
for
night,
the 13th time.
tomorrow night at 7, the Superhero League. I will be joining the show, so make sure you check that out. And we will see everybody next time.
All right.
Back for the breakdown either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yes, sir. And check out all of Eric's sports shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get back.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.